Good afternoon, everyone, or whatever time of day it is you guys are watching. I want to talk about something now that's I've been researching this whole UFO UAP phenomena thing, and I want to say right from the get-go, I, I don't think it's little green men, right? Whatever it is, I don't think it's little green men. However, I read an article today from, if I'll share it for you, a former National Security Agency (NSA) chief, and he gave a warning. Former NSA Science chief warns humanity may be missing something huge about the UFO phenomena, and in this article. He does hit a nerve. He does hit quite a few. He does hit quite a few spots. Now, the best explanation I can give you guys to this is I don't think any of you guys have been alive, but back when people thought the Earth was flat, yes, the Earth is round and it's spherical. Back when people thought that the Earth was flat. And not when the Earth was flat. Back when people thought that the sun moved around the Earth and everything else, and that the Earth was in the middle of the universe, nothing made sense. Nobody could make sense of the planets and the celestial movements. As soon as people said, "Hang on a minute, what if the sun's in the middle?" and everyone's rotating around the sun, then everything just dropped into place. So I'm going to be talking about this today, and then I'm going to be talking about this soul form theory. Now, I know this is a bit dark. However, apparently it's quite an old theory. Now, I didn't know that this was a thing, but there's a theory. I think it's called the soul form theory or the human form theory. And I'm going to be talking about that. I will talk about that afterwards. In fact, you know what? I will start with that actually. So the reason I'm going to be talking about this is because when I was looking into it, and guys, listen, I am absolutely fascinated in this subject. It's something that's so crazy. And it's right there. You know, the United States are giving this real time. Yesterday or whatever it was, there was a gunman running to the United States attempting to potentially send Donald Trump to the candy shop, who was also a NASA JPL researcher. This whole situation now is absolutely bonkers. And we're either being played, and it's some sort of distraction for something else, or something a lot bigger is happening, or like the NSA ex-science chief, we are missing something. Something is just missing, and it's not making sense. So I want to talk to you guys about this. What if everything on this planet has been a lie? Just go with it, guys. What if Earth isn't free, evolving naturally? What if Earth is a farm? This is called the Earth farm theory. Now, the reason I'm going down this Earth farm theory is because when I was looking at this, I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting. Now, one of the key figures in the Earth farm theory is a guy called Bob Monroe. Bob Monroe was part of something called the Monroe Project, right? And it's what's it called? Is it the Stargate Project or something? I can't remember off the top of my head. But it was basically when these alleged remote viewers, as part of, I think it was part of MK Ultra, Bob Monroe was a big part of that. So straight away, he's got this guy who I'm talking about has a lot of credibility with the American intelligence agency. That is a fact, guys. All right. You guys can argue whether it's credible, whether it's not credible. The CIA were funding him to a lot of money. So they were funding him for something. Now, you guys can argue why they were funding him, and that's absolutely fine, but they were giving him money. So growing numbers of thinkers, researchers, me included, Bob Lazar, and experiencers claim that humanity is not the master of this planet and that we are actually livestock, not for flesh, but for something far more valuable, our emotional energy. Now, I'm a little bit off canter with this, guys, but they call it loosh. Bob Monroe mentioned this, and I didn't know what he was talking about, loosh. I had no idea what he was talking about. I even shared the video with you guys. I shared the video, Bob Monroe on Joe Rogan podcast, and he was saying, well, what if the reason we're being kept in the dark, what if the reason we've never seen any other any aliens, what if the reason for all this is we're living on a farm and we are the livestock, we are the loosh farm. I didn't realize what that was until literally like this afternoon. So advanced beings, whether it be extraterrestrials, interdimensional, or something darker, potentially even demons, have turned Earth into a controlled environment, a giant soul farm, wars, disasters, division, endless conflict, all carefully cultivated to keep us in a constant state of fear, anger, and despair. Because that's what they feed on. And when we go to the candy shop, the trap closes. We're fed back into the cycle, reincarnation, to be harvested all over again. Lifetime after lifetime, generation after generation, never to be allowed to truly escape. Now, I'm giving you guys the theory, right? It's very difficult for me to digest as well. And I've got so many questions. Some say this explains why the world feels so deliberately broken, why peace never lasts, why cruelty and chaos seem baked into the system, because the farm must be kept producing. It echoes the oldest stories. Gnostics called them the Archons. Ancient myths spoke about gods who demanded an offering. Modern whistleblowers and near-death experiences describe the same soul recycling machine waiting on the other side. So if you think about it for a second, and I know this is a bit wild, if you think about it, the richest, most powerful people on earth always seem obsessed with control, surveillance, and keeping the masses distracted and divided. What if they're simply the farm managers, keeping the herd productive for their off-world masters? We often look up at the stars and wonder why we've never been contacted. Maybe the answer is simpler than we want to admit. We have been contacted. We just weren't greeted as equals. We were already owned. Whether this theory is true or not, I don't think it is. However, this is a legitimate theory. It's called the Earth farm theory. It still comes into that. What's the word I'm looking for? That angle that I've been talking about. 2025, the Epstein files were released. 2026, we will be told that aliens are real. 2027, we're going to be told that aliens are on their way. Now, that's what I think is coming. So I want to jump onto this other thing. What I've just been sharing. This NSA Science chief. Something very significant just dropped in, which I shared with you guys. So this guy they're talking about, a man who spent his career at the absolute highest levels of secrecy, has stepped forward and issued a stark warning. His name is Dr. Eric Hazeltine, former science chief and director of the research at the National Security Agency, the NSA, has come out quite publicly and said that humanity may be missing something absolutely huge about the UFO phenomenon. And this is kind of, this is where I feel I am now, guys. Again, I know I keep having to reiterate this, but there's clearly something happening here, right? There's clearly something happening here. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's little green men. I don't think it's I don't think it's people harvesting souls for reincarnation, although it might be. So he's come out and he's been quite open that we may be missing something absolutely huge. Like I gave you guys at the beginning of the live stream, when humans thought that the sun orbited the Earth, when scientists said, well, hang on a minute, what if the Earth orbits the sun? Everything fell into place. This isn't this guy isn't a conspiracy YouTuber, right? Or a blurry video enthusiast, because I'm sick to death of these blurry videos, right? These blurry videos that people are saying are aliens, are UFOs. I don't know what I'm looking at. What am I looking at? And tell me how that's an alien. Literally, tell me these little specks on the screen and somebody going, oh my God, it's moving so fast. Like, tell me how it's just so deluded. So this is one of America's top scientific minds from the heart of the intelligence community itself, a man who oversaw some of the most advanced research programs on this planet. In a recent interview, he said Hazeltine didn't rush to say aliens are here, which I think is fair, because I'm not convinced they are either. Instead, he said something far more profound and unsettling. Our current scientific models, our understanding of physics, even our perception of reality itself might simply be inadequate to explain what's really going on. And this is where I think we are, guys. I really do. This is where I think we are. I wish I had props, right? I don't have a crystal ball, guys. I have an 8-ball, and it's not that accurate. Now, this 8-ball doubles up for lots of things, all right? This 8-ball is now going to double up, and I'm going to try and explain to you guys dimensional perception using this 8-ball, right? Okay, so if you look at this 8-ball, right, it's spherical. There's a little flat bit at that side, but let's just, for purposes of this demonstration, let's say it's perfectly spherical, okay? So we know that this is a sphere, right? Because we can see it. We can see all 3 dimensions. Okay, we can see that. Now, if you could only see in 2 dimensions, how would you perceive this? You would perceive this as a circle, right? So, and take the cross section. You would just be able to perceive it as a cross section, right? But because you can't perceive a higher dimension, as in 3D, it just looks like a circle to you. Now, if you were able to lift up and see the whole perception and see the whole dimensions, you would understand that this is a 3D object and it's actually a sphere. Now, if you were to try and then explain what a sphere was to someone who only had 2D perception, they would be totally lost. They'd be like, "Yeah, you're crazy. You're as crazy as Raven." And I do think we're somewhere here where current scientific models just can't comprehend what's actually going on with this phenomenon. He suggested that a small but very real proportion of these UAP encounters represent genuine anomalies. And honestly, guys, I've debunked so many of these things. I've debunked them, and it seems that the more convincing you are as a storyteller, if you're convincing as a storyteller, right, it doesn't matter if there's a perfect explanation. It doesn't really matter. If you're a good storyteller, then people want to listen, and people want to believe, right? People want to believe that there's little green men here. And again, I need to keep saying this, right? I'm not convinced. Although if I see evidence, I will say, yeah, I can't think of any other explanation. But some of these UFO encounters do represent genuine anomalies, things that defy our known laws of physics, possibly involving dimensions, consciousness, or techniques we don't yet comprehend. He nails it, guys, in this article. He really does. And he's warning that we need to radically rethink how we approach this. So for those of you guys who don't know, one of my, a good friend of mine, he's dead now, sadly, and mentor. He was a senior particle physicist at CERN. You can Google him. His name's Steve Rucroft. And he was telling me, you know, he used to tell me all the time that there are just things that we can't explain. And it was very difficult because in science, you get the, you know, you get the Kruger curve, right? You get people, the Dunning-Kruger curve. You get people leaving university. They get their first job as a researcher or whatever, you know, and they're high up on the Dunning-Kruger curve. And then the more they know, they just, you know, they come down and then they start to go up to the path of enlightenment on the Dunning-Kruger curve. Now, here's what makes this timing explosive. This comes weeks after Donald Trump ordered the full declassification of all UFO files. The White House has quietly registered aliens.gov. Say that to yourselves. Just guys, listen, if you think this is far-fetched, just say this to yourself. The United States government, the same people who run the White House website, they have in there, and they are working on a domain name called www.aliens.gov. That's real. That's happening. The machine is moving. The files are coming, and I do believe we will get some files. What they will be, I don't know. If you guys were on yesterday's live stream when I was talking about this, I was talking about how this would be historically, this would be a controlled release. And now one of the most qualified scientists in America is saying we might be looking at this all wrong. And I think he's absolutely right, guys. I think we're looking at this UFO, UAP phenomena absolutely wrong. We are. We're looking at it totally wrong. We're thinking little green men in tin cans, and I think that's absurd. He's calling for genuine scientific humility, not ridicule, not wild speculation, but real open investigation into something that could rewrite the entire understanding of the universe and our place in it. So let me ask you guys this real quick, hashtag family. What if the biggest story of our lifetime isn't just about lights in the sky or crashed craft, but about the very nature of reality itself? What if we've been blind to something so enormous because our science wasn't ready, because our minds weren't able to perceptualize it? Dr. Hazeltine's warning should make everybody stop, pause, and think. Because when, you know, these high-level scientists say that we might be missing something huge, I think it really is time to start thinking about alternate explanations. The disclosure window is open, and whatever is on the other side of it, I think it's going to change. I do, guys. I think this is going to change absolutely everything. And I understand this subject matter is not for everyone. I understand that people don't want to perceive little green men, and they want, you know, and it fascinates me. My dad, when the Epstein files got released, for me, we can all understand, you know, the debauchery, right? We can all understand the debauchery. But for me, the biggest shock in the Epstein files was one of the biggest shocks was the amount of scientific research he was looking at. The references to UFOs, UAPs, Gilgamesh's resurrection chamber, like that stuff totally blew my mind. And when I was telling my dad about this, my dad wasn't bothered. He just wasn't bothered. He didn't care about it. To me, this is like the fabric of reality. Anyway, right, listen, guys, I think I'm gonna keep this to a relatively short, oh, sorry, guys, let me put the chat on. I think I'm gonna keep this to a relatively short live stream because I am gonna be back on at 8 o'clock tonight, guys. I just wanted to get this on there quickly. David is saying, I could see them being interdimensional. That's why sometimes we can pick up on camera and see them sometimes, and other times we can't. It's almost like a hologram phasing in and out. Can you imagine if something was interdimensional, right? Can you guys imagine if something was? That would mean that would if this phenomena was interdimensional, that would mean they could just come to your house without opening the door. Can you imagine how terrified you would be? Santi Todd is saying, let it be, let it be. Dead fish and cheese spread is... Dead fish and cheese spread, he's saying, I saw an orb closer than almost anyone ever. They're real. Okay, right, this is fascinating. Dead fish and cheese spread. Can you tell me more? Can you tell me more, please? Like, did it look metallic? What was it? Can you give me more information, please? I'm jumping to the bomb. Oh, hang on a minute. Sean's chest rug. Jason Schmidt is saying, I've seen an orb in the desert in Nevada. Government tests all kind of stuff out there, and thankfully they test it out there where there's nothing. Yeah, you see, when we see all these these orbs, honestly, I don't even know what does that even mean, an orb? It's just ridiculous. Like, for me, I don't know what I'm looking at, guys. I don't know what I'm looking at when people say orbs and stuff. I just struggle with it all. Also, on these orb things, you know, they do always seem to appear near US military test sites, right? I was watching a video of a scientist saying our sun could be some sort of lens or camera or something like that. I mean, I think there's something, you know, I do think we may have missed something totally. Right, I'm jumping to the bottom. Band again is saying Christmas and, not Christmas, Christians and all religions have always said there's good angels and bad angels. Today, atheists say there's good aliens, I think that means, and bad aliens. They're not aliens. Yeah, I mean, this goes back to what JD Vance said the other day, right? Where he said, like, he just dropped it so blasé, right? Like, JD Vance just dropped this so blasé. Like, to me, it just got brushed over. And I was like, what? What did he say? What did he say over there? What did that guy say? What did that guy say? And JD Vance the other day, he was questioned on this, and he said he doesn't think these orbs and these UFOs are aliens. He said he thinks they're demons. I was like, is that not more terrifying? Is that not more terrifying? Right, where can I see your documentary? Dead fish and cheese spread. They have a crystal core. Shadowban is saying, if we just assume there is life everywhere, all around us, in every spectrum, in every light of the spectrum, yeah. So the other day we was talking about this, and what I said to someone is, somebody said, I can't remember. I think it may have been somebody. I don't even know if it was someone on the chat. It might be somebody who actually said it to me. Anyway, what they said, or I might have seen it on a video, so I can't remember. And somebody said, if I can't see it, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. So what I said was, do you believe in Wi-Fi? You know, do you believe in Wi-Fi? you definitely can't see Wi-Fi. You can't feel it. Well, I don't think you can feel it. Maybe you can. I don't know. You know, but because we have the science and because we have the understanding of how Wi-Fi works, imagine trying explaining Wi-Fi, right? Imagine explaining Wi-Fi to like, you know, it's like a Roman emperor or like a Viking. Not a chance are they going to understand what Wi-Fi is. However, our brains and our knowledge and our perception of science has now given us that knowledge. Okay, fire starch. What if they? Oh, I think I may be okay. I think you may be talking to someone else, but let's go. Weird bacteria sitting in a petri dish, and when people come and turn the light on in the morning, it's daytime. Sean, by the way, the Nellis UFO footage is from third phase of the moon 9 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what that means. You're going to have to give me more information, mate. I'm not familiar with the... Listen, guys, I'll be honest with you, right? I'm not really a UFO researcher. Yeah, of course, everybody looks at UFOs and, you listen to the lore and it's just good entertainment. I've only really dialed into this the last couple of months since this disclosure. This disclosure has been announced, and I've seen the uptick in this going from a fringe topic to a mainstream topic with, real, people giving it real consideration now. Right, listen, I am jumping to the bottom. Oh, hang on a minute. F-16 to UFO crash 2023. Look it up. Third phase of the biggest fake UFO channel on YouTube. You see, a lot of these channels, right, they get very sensationalist, and they get very sensationalist. I'm not going to go into it, but I debunked. There's one in Wales. I pronounced it wrong. It's like Pentrich or Pentrach or something. I totally debunked that claim, and I can go through. I even reached out to the woman. So there's a woman, right? She's a fantastic storyteller. This is what I mean. If you're a good storyteller, people will believe you, right? Because people want to believe. I reached out to that woman and I said, listen, I know that this wasn't a UFO, right? I know that this wasn't aliens. I know this was a military exercise. I'd be happy to meet you and talk you through everything that you think you saw. Gareth is saying, if you're interested about where humanity came from, look up a guy called Greg Braden. Right, give me a second. I'm going to Google this right now. Greg Braden. Oh, isn't he like the... Right, okay. Right, I've seen this guy. All right, okay, I've seen this guy. He was doing... Oh, I've seen some of his videos, right? I've seen some of his videos. I think it's my own prejudice, right? I think sometimes this is my own prejudice, but I prefer to go with like, and I'm not being negative to anyone, right? I feel I prefer to go with scientific, actual scientific researchers. Right, listen, guys, I'm literally going to close this down because what time is it? I'm going to close this down because I've still got some bits to do. I just wanted to get this on and make this like, a short video. So the crux has been a UFO alien update. This Loosh farm thing, the Earth farm theory, go and check it out for yourself. Now, the main reason I shared that is because of one of the guys that's been pushing this guy called Bob Monroe. Now, you guys can search this thing. He was part of this like Stargate project or something that was real. And I'm not, whether you guys believe in this or whether you think that this is real, okay? And they got funding for their research by the US military. That happened. That's real. All right. We can tick that in the box. This is not, this is not a couple of people sat in the garden after they've been having a few drinks. This is real research funded by the US government. And he did a lot of work with what's it called? That astral is it called astral viewing or something? Is it astral viewing or something? So anyway, this is called the loose form theory. And then we've got the, this guy here, the former NSA chief, coming out, and he's been quite open about this. And I do give this guy a lot of credibility. Again, it could all be fake, right? Former NSA chief warns humanity may be missing something huge about the UFO phenomena. So there we are, guys. There's stuff happening. Something's going to happen, and it's going to be absolutely huge. Very soon, this subject matter is going to overtake absolutely everything. It really is. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down now. I'll be back on at 8 o'clock, guys. I'll be back on at 8 o'clock, and I will be talking about Trump's humiliation, how Iran have just humiliated Trump. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, if you've not done so, make sure you like this page, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, all those things that help me out, guys. Really does help me out. And I'll catch you guys at 8.